Hey pen friends, it's Kaitlin. Welcome back to another journaling video. Today I was thinking we would do a little bit of a Q1 / 1 quarter through the year recap of how it's going in my planners and journals. I'm gonna be kind of going into how the last 4 months went, what kind of happened over that time that is important to highlight and kind of helped contribute to any changes or tweaks that I might be making in my analog system. Hint, changes have been made, as you can see. And then after kind of going over that, I'm thinking we'll talk about, what we've added, each book, flip through a little bit, and talk about any tweaks as well that I might have made, because besides kind of one big addition to my system and one thing being removed, I didn't really do too much besides that, and it's mostly minor tweaks. So I do want to go over those as well, so we talk about all the changes that are happening, big and small. But yeah, let's just talk first off about what happened over the past 4 months. I feel like the first quarter is always an interesting one once you've kind of chosen your analog system for the year. For me, the beginning of the year was definitely, I would say, the biggest challenge was around January for me. So January is always like, you're in the new books, you're playing around with them. I think that also, you're seeing everyone else using their new books. So there's definitely a lot of temptation there. And this is kind of going into the first big update besides the, just getting used to the books and picking out books while on vacation and the consequences of that. But January was a bit of a tricky month for me in terms of staying consistent with my books. I almost hopped out of my passport bullet journal into a different book, and then I kind of came back to it by the end of the month, which was really good. But I kind of made the switch at the end of January with all that going on, and also just like personal life choices, to cut off or decrease the amount of YouTube I was watching in the morning, and specifically YouTube around the planner and journal sphere. So previous to the beginning of February, oftentimes my morning routine would be, drinking my tea, and I would like to kind of turn on YouTube and see what the planner people were doing. And what I think was happening for a while, or my hypothesis, is that when I first wake up in the morning, I'm in a bit more of a more easily influenced state. And I noticed what was happening is, based on the videos I was watching in the morning around planners and journals, it would influence me and influence my system and lead to, the FOMO, the temptation, the interest to try something else. And not only that, but on a personal level, I think that something that I've always known about myself is that, screens first thing in the morning isn't the best way to start my day, especially because at work every day I'm on a laptop, because I work as a designer, so I'm on my laptop on Figma all the time designing stuff. So it was kind of a personal choice as well as a pattern situation that I was noticing. But around February, I decided to stop watching planner videos in the morning. I do still watch planner videos. I want to just clarify that detail. It's not like I've cut it off completely. I think it's just I've rescheduled it to a time where I'm not as susceptible to being, inspired and tempted by other people's systems and having that negatively affect mine. And, now it's something that's a little more special. I have my tea in the afternoon sometimes, and I will watch certain videos that I'm really excited to watch. So it's been kind of a nice rejig of that habit and that routine. But I will say that January was kind of chaotic, but then once I hit February and I started kind of not engaging in the planner tube, if you want to call it that, it's been a lot easier and a lot more stable in terms of the analog system, which I think, I don't have exact science to prove it, of course. I don't have any data, but I do think just not seeing other people's systems, of course, helps you kind of stick with yours, because then all of your focus is kind of going towards your own thing and your own practice. So that was kind of the big news, I would say, that I think is important to talk about before I start talking about changes. Of course, even though I did stop engaging with social media and YouTube in the morning, I still have made some pretty big changes to my analog system, which I'm quite enjoying, if I do say so myself. So I'll talk about the one that you don't see here. So something I just did not even start, even though I had planned to back in December when I created my analog lineup, was my gaming journal. I was gonna use, I think, an A6 Stalogy for that, and I still have my Stalogy. I like to have a couple notebooks, you know, on the side for myself, or if one of my friends or family needs one, then I can kind of give them one as a gift, which is always nice. But I've just put that back into storage, and I'm sure I'll use it for something else. But in terms of for a gaming journal, I think I just realized once I started using my books that I didn't need a dedicated 300-page book for that. I will say that I am considering using, oh, I have one right here. Okay, perfect. I am considering using a smaller book for some dedicated collections for my gaming for reference. If you guys play the video game Stardew Valley, you might know that there's a lot of information that you have to know to play the game. There's information on the fish and when the fish can be caught, and what season the fish can be caught, and the crops and the rocks and the villagers and what gifts they like. And if you haven't played Stardew Valley, you probably are a little concerned about what I'm talking about right now, but I promise that it's actually fun, especially if you kind of like to always keep busy and have projects on the go. I feel like Stardew Valley is like a project-based video game, so if you like tasks and planning, it's definitely up your alley. But I have like been keeping some collections in my bullet journal with essential Stardew Valley information I like to keep on hand. However, I am thinking of setting up a field notes just with a little more reference information that if I stuck it in my bullet journal, it would be like 20% planning, 80% Stardew Valley, which is not a healthy balance. So I am thinking of kind of pasting in some guides in a little book like this. And the nice thing about this is I can actually slip this in my bullet journal if I want to have it on hand. So no gaming journal right now. I have officially eliminated it from my system, but I am thinking of maybe reviving it with a field notes. We'll see. It'll probably just be something I do on a weekend when I feel inspired. As of right now, I'm good and I have the essential collections I need for my gaming in my bullet journal, which has been really nice. So yeah, we got rid of the gaming journal. So we took one away and we actually added a journal, which you can see right here. So as part of the January chaos, I did I don't want to say fall prey, because I actually think this was kind of a really nice decision and a nice happy accident. But as part of the January chaos, and also as part of one of my journal friends, Alex, hey Alex, if you're watching this, having one of these and in our FaceTimes showing me hers and, you know, talking about hers, I did fall prey, if you want to call it that. I did decide to purchase a Hobonichi 5-year. There's a bunch of reasons why I decided this. Some of them are silly, like the idea of having it in like actual 5-year increments, so like 2025 to 2029, 2030 to 2034, just really appease that weird part of my brain that makes me good at my job. But also, I just really liked the idea and the structure of this notebook, the way that you could record very short, approachable sentences about your day and compare them over 5 years. My other friend, actually, Emily, has a 5-year journal as well. So sometimes she'll text me on days where we did something together and tell me about it and was like, hey, we did this 3 years ago today. And it's like, whoa, that's actually really cool and kind of wild. I kind of want to be able to do that too. So I guess I was influenced by the journal community, but I would say actually like the non-internet people in my life who use journals for this guy. So I did pick it up. I have been using it. I think I received it in early February. I ordered it around January, and I have added this to my system officially, if you want to call it that. So we do have 3 books at the moment, just like when we started in January. But yeah, these are kind of the books that I am continuing to use. We have the planner, which is my bullet journal, which is a Passport Traveler's Notebook. And then we have the journals, which is the Hobonichi 5-year. This is in A6, by the way, not the big A5. And a regular Traveler's Notebook, also for journaling. One of the things I'm very aware of right now is there's a bit of overlap in my journals. I have a 5-year journal. I also have a daily-ish journal. They're kind of the same, but also kind of different. And for the past month, I've thought to myself, you know, we should really decide, you know, like let's maybe commit to the 5-year, only use the daily-ish journal for bigger events like travel journaling, where I would want to record more details than a 5-year would allow, but alas, no, I like journaling in both, and for now, I don't really want to choose, so that is why I'm keeping both. So yeah, you know, there are no rules to your planner system. It doesn't have to be logical, and I'm really enjoying this trio right now, so I'm gonna keep using them. But yeah, I think that was enough on the journals and the analog system update for the quarter. Now I'm gonna move these guys aside, and I will show you what's going on in the Passport Traveler's Notebook. So since our hiccup in January, I have been using this guy all the time. It's great. I love it. In case you didn't watch the last video, when I flipped through this for January, one of the big changes that I made to this notebook is that I added this clip to my, not really system, to the notebook, to the TN, if you want to call it that. And I shifted the books around so that my book that I use all the time, which is my book in the back here, was much more easily accessible for writing, but also with the clip I would be able to keep my book open more easily and have it lay flat. So if you want more details on the exact shift, that would be in that video, but I will say as an update, it's going really well. I don't think I'll do like a proper flip through because not much has changed, and also the blurring would be kind of a struggle, but in case you don't know how the system works, it's quite simple. I keep 2 notebooks in my Passport Traveler's Notebook for bullet journaling. The first one is kind of my yearly book, so this is where I have my future log, which is in the form of these undated calendars. So we have future log in the form of calendars, and then the awesome thing about this insert is it has blank pages at the back. So you can add extra collections that you want to reference over the year. And for myself, I don't have a lot of collections I need to reference yearly, so the 10 pages in the back is more than enough space for me. So I will show you the collections I've added. I think in my flip through, I showed you the F1 calendar I added. By the way, it started, if anyone's watching, the China Grand Prix this weekend. As of filming, we just watched the sprint race. It was awesome. I have a list of Canadian statutory holidays because I work for a bank, so I get a bunch of these days off, which is absolutely amazing, and I like to keep track of it. So I have that in here. I have added a bunch of Stardew Valley guides. These are my essential guides, so there are some more that I would want to reference, but these are just kind of the basic ones that I think are, you know, the main stars of the show that are most useful. So I'll go over this quickly for the non-Stardew Valley people. All of these are from Reddit. That's not true. 2 of these are from Reddit. Some of these, like these, are actually from a YouTuber who does a lot of Stardew Valley videos called Salamence. He has these awesome graphics, which are some of my favorites. And when I do make my reference book in my field notes, it's all gonna be these guys. Let me tell you, it's gonna be a great time with my printer. So I'll link them all below for you in case you want them for yourself, but that's kind of where most of these are from. The left one is a guide to villager loved gifts. I'm not going to explain what these are. If you know, you know. If you don't play Stardew Valley, apologies. So yeah, we have villager loved gifts. Reddit. This one is last day to plant for crops. Also Reddit. I tipped it in with some washi tape. And then there's a lot of different guides that you can, there we go. There's a lot of different guides that you can get for checklists for year one if you're trying to get the community center in a year. I've used a bunch of them. For myself, there's two main ones I like to use. I like to reference this one by Salamence because I like the way it's structured into seasons. So each season I know kind of what are the main things I'm trying to get. So it's easier to focus on what needs to happen and not miss anything that could prevent me from doing a community center run in under a year. So this is the one I have in here. You will see later in my bullet journal, I do have another guide. And this one's kind of just the reference. And then I have a second guide to kind of check off the things as I do them. So that's how I like to do it. But there's lots of other guides that are really great as well that are all over Reddit. So, you know, find what works for you. But yeah, that's Stardew Valley stuff. Oh yeah, I did keep this in here. This is probably something I'll put in the reference book, but I just kept it here because I liked it. This is an animal guide, so this is again one of Salamence's like fantastic graphics. I love these. Also, they're beautiful. And this just shows for each animal, the cost of the animal, the building you need for it, the products, what it is when it is processed as an artisan good, and then the profit per day. So yeah. For the people who don't play Stardew, I'm sure you're very confused, but yeah, maybe look up the game. It's honestly such a good time. But besides that, that is what I have in terms of this book. And oh yeah, something I have been doing as well that I think I mentioned a couple videos ago, but I am using the tracker section at the beginning of the book. There's like this blank page, no idea why, and then there is a 12-month tracker. I've never ever used these, but what I'm using it for now and having the absolute best time with is I am tracking when I work out. So I'm just using a mild liner, the chisel tip, which perfectly fits these boxes, which makes my soul incredibly happy. This one is in beige, and I just highlight the days that I do a workout. So that's been really fun to track. I've quite enjoyed that. And then after this, you just go into the main calendars, which I'm kind of avoiding. Actually, okay, I'll show you this one. This is kind of how it looks. There's a sticky note on the right, which I use to write down the dates. And then I'll usually mark with washi tape any times that either I'm on vacation or my family's on vacation, any kind of notable time chunks like that. So yeah, that's kind of the first book. Going good, enjoying it. The second book is going well as well. So if you are a bullet journaler, the first book was the future log and yearly collections. The second book here is what I keep my monthly log, my weekly log, and my daily logs in, as well as any collections that are maybe short-term that I want to write down, and sometimes they will get transferred in here, but not very often, to be honest. For this book, maybe I'll go to March and show you a recent month so you can kind of see. But yeah, before I go into the book, this is a insert by Good Impressions. It is her Cream Tomoe River paper in 68 GSM. I get customizations for squared corners and 4mm grid. It typically comes with 5. And this is the insert with 64 pages, I think. It's either 62 or 64, but this is the notebook I use, and I've used these quite a bit last year as well. Love them, they're really great. So this is the first thing that I will set up at the beginning of every book. I don't do any sort of like quarterly planning or anything like that. I go straight into my monthly log and my monthly collections. So for my monthlies, I have 4 pages I like to set up every single time. The first 2 you can see here are my calendar pages. So on the left, I have a calendar for the entire month. I use that same mild liner to mark down the days that I'm busy or have an event so that I know, what are the busier days and weeks of the month or when I'm not available. And then on the right, I will write down the events so that I know what the events are that I have. The next set of pages is my monthly task list on the left. And then on the right, I have my media tracker. The task list is pretty straightforward. I just have a column for every week of the month and then a dot for non-week specific tasks so that I can write a task once, like laundry, and I don't have to rewrite it every week when I inevitably have to do it every week. So I like that. The media log, I think, is a little more interesting. This one has the same layout as the task list, but instead of it being like tasks, it is each week that I am continuing to read or watch or play the thing. So I need to update this for week 4 once I continue playing it inevitably. But for example, Stardew Valley, I've played every week of the month. I have watched Shrinking the first 2 weeks of the month, and then the dot here actually denotes if I have finished that piece of media. So for example, I finished watching Shrinking season 2 in the 2nd week of the month, and then I marked it here to show that it was completed. Movies obviously are one night, so I'll just mark it for like the week I watch it. And then yeah, nothing more really to say about that. That's kind of how that looks. I quite like these spreads and they're easy to set up. The next set of spreads is my weekly log. So my weekly log is the page on the left. It's very similar to my monthly log, except that my list isn't every week of the month, it's every day of the week. So how I do this is I do Monday through Friday and then weekend for both Saturday and Sunday, and then a dot for non-date specific stuff. The first 3 items in my weekly log are actually habits I like to track. So because I need Saturday and Sunday for those, what I do is I treat the weekend column as Saturday and the dot column as Sunday. But then for weekly planning, I treat them as weekend and non-date specific tasks. Sounds a bit weird, but in my mind it makes total sense. And then the right page is all of my daily logs. So this is just a line-by-line list of the events, tasks, notes, rapid log style like the original bullet journal method, and I'll just set up each week as I finish my dailies. Sometimes I will add collections to the page if I have extras. So Stardew Valley yet again. I finish my weekly logs here, and I have this thing where I don't like to start the next week on the right hand page. I prefer it to be on the left so that I can see it when I'm writing my first couple days of daily logs. So usually if I have an extra page, it'll be over here. This page I have my other Stardew Valley printable that I printed out. So this is I'll actually just fold it like this. This is the Community Center Bundle printable. This is actually from Reddit. And this guy I like not for knowing what I need to collect every month, but just for checking off what I've gotten. So for this playthrough, I'm pretty much almost done. I should be able to finish this by the time I'm done this insert. I just need one more thing for the final bundle, but this is the other one that I enjoy. I kept this in this insert, not this insert, because once I'm done with this, which will be this month, I won't need to reference this again, this collection. So it's not something that I reference all the time, like my yearly ones, which is why it's kept in the quarterly book. But yeah, besides that, this book went really well, and I would flip through this, but it has a lot of my work tasks in it, so I would have to censor like all of it, and that would make me very sad. So I'm not going to right now, but maybe in another video, I'll do like another kind of monthly flip through like I did for January. But for this book, the only tweak I'm thinking of making to this book, and I guess the entire Traveler's Notebook, is I am thinking of increasing the page number of this insert when I purchase it next from Good Impressions. I noticed with the 64 pages that I've actually essentially run out of pages. I don't have enough, and it is only one more week until the new quarter, which is when I typically switch notebooks, and I'm already out of pages. If you can kind of see here, I'm fully out. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to tape in 4 pages into the back just so I can keep all of March together, because I don't really want to have to reset up all my collections in the new book only to be done with them in a week. So I'm thinking that I'll just probably buy the 80-page insert from her next time I order instead of the 64, so that I have a little more room for a quarter, because I don't like to switch notebooks sooner than that. Also, I think it'll be nice to not feel as limited in terms of space for collections, because right now I tend to only have the odd page for collections, so I can't really easily create collections as I want, and I'd like to have a little more flexibility with that. So yeah, that is this notebook. Going well, enjoying it. Will continue using. All right, so the planner is out of the way. The 5-year, I guess we can talk about next. So this is the new one. This is the Hobonichi A6 5-year. I got this in January, but it didn't arrive until February. So a big part of February and March for me has been actually backfilling this for all of January and February. And as of right now, I am on, let's see here, I'm on, I think March 8th. Yeah, March 8th. And today is the 22nd. So I should be able to actually be caught up by the end of next week, which is awesome. The way that this notebook works, in case you haven't seen it before, is it is a 5-year journal. So there are 5 spaces, one for each year, for every day of the year. The right-hand page is blank, so you can write more or paste things in, which is what I do. And yeah, you just pretty much write every day. For myself, what I prefer to do is I write in this twice a week, so I can do, you know, between 3 to 5 days at once. I feel like that's, for me, a nice manageable chunk that I like to do at a time, but some people write in this every day. But I do know some people like to do it as kind of a daily practice. In terms of pages, I guess I can show a couple. I don't think I'll flip through the entire thing just because it's very personal, obviously, but this is a good one. You can kind of see what I'm doing in here. So I have my entry for the year 2025. This is February 10th. And then I'm trying to be sparing about this since I don't want this book to get any thicker because it's already quite big. But where I have something special, I will add it in. So for example, here I've put in a photo of my dog. This is printed on my Canon selfie paper, which you can see here. It's photo paper, so it's not super thick, unlike, you know, something like this, which is an Instax, which is really chunky. I love Instax photos, and I would love to like post something like this in here, but I just think it would make the journal too thick, and then it would make the subsequent pages too hard to write on, so I have stuck to my Canon printer, and I think it's nice how it fills up the page. For anyone who's curious, this is not how the prints normally look, but what you do with a Canon printer, which is really nice, is you can do collage layouts. So this photo is actually a 4x6 print, which I printed 2 photos on, and then I just cut it in half and added the border. So that is how I was able to print a photo small enough to fit in here, since the book is 4x6, meaning that if you had a true 4x6 photo, it wouldn't actually fit in here. I think this one is, I can measure it for you. It is, I'll do inches. It is about 3 by, I guess, 4, right? Yeah, around that, 3 by 4 inches. So that is how big this kind of photo is, and it fits really nicely on the page, which I really like. So yeah, that's kind of all I'm doing in here. I'm going to be finishing backfilling this soon, which is really nice. I'm excited to not be, I mean, honestly, it's not hard to backfill this, like really. I think it only took me, I guess it'll have taken me a month and a half to do it, but I've been kind of slow with it. I didn't want to sit down and, you know, be like, okay, here we go, backfilling an entire month in one sitting. No, I would kind of just pick a couple days out of the week and sit down and do 5 to 10 entries at a time, because I didn't want to burn myself out and then not use this book because I was just irritated with writing in it. So I took my time backfilling this, but you could definitely do it a lot faster. Each entry probably takes about 5 minutes. It's a really small amount of space and it's very, very achievable. I will flip through it here, but I will say I have appreciated with this book how easy it is to consistently journal about your days with it. I think that if you've never journaled before and you want to get into the habit of writing daily, even though the 5-year commitment seems a bit daunting, and even if it doesn't work out, I think that it's a great practice and a great kind of size of page to get in the habit of daily journaling. It is super, super achievable. It's really not a big task filling this guy out, and I am very curious to see what it will be like upon the next year seeing the entries. So yeah, definitely was an unexpected purchase for the year, but I've been really liking this and we're gonna keep using it. Oh, I forgot to mention this, but something I do have in the back here is an A6 folder by Hobonichi. This, I just have some, oh my gosh, I have a tortina wrapper because I discovered tortinas in February and they're so good. I need to buy more, honestly, but anyway, tangent aside, I do have a folder back here. This is one of the ones that came out, I think, this past year for Hobonichi, and it's A6 size, and what I did was I just kind of slip it in the back of the book, and I use this to collect any ephemera or photos that I want to put in here that I haven't gotten around to pasting in. So that's really the only kind of addition to this book so far. Okay, the final journal. I feel like this video is going to be really long, but alas, we continue. This is what I started the year out with as my daily-ish journal. It is still my daily-ish journal. I would love to write every day in this, but honestly, I think there's just some days where I don't have anything I want to write. There's nothing I really want to record, or I don't feel like it. And the beauty of this book is that I don't have to force it. It is here when I want to write, and when I don't want to write, it's not a big deal because the pages that I use and the insert that I use is undated. So there's absolutely no consequences besides, of course, missing out on memories if, you know, there is actually something that I wanted to write about that day. Okay, so for this guy, oh, I will say, so January and February were very rough for this one. I think, and by rough I mean I did not write anything in this for January and February. I think part of why that happened was because for most of January, I was still backfilling my insert from December for the end of 2024. And I think that by the time it was time to refill, it just felt really hard to kind of jump in January 1st and start journaling when I was already so many days behind. So I kind of gave this one a bit of a break. I mainly focused on my 5-year journal in February, and I have since come back. Well, I will say in February I was kind of planning or allowing myself to just use this book for travel journaling, since when I travel I have a lot more to write about, so the daily format would work a lot better for that. But in March I was in the mood to write, so I have been using the 5-year as well as this notebook kind of off on whenever I feel like it. This insert that I use as my journal is housed in a Traveler's Company regular sized cover. The insert is number 5, or the undated daily refill, and it's been going really well in March. I've been really enjoying it. Something that I struggled with this one at the end of last year was I was using the daily page layout to kind of write about like 1 page per topic. And what I've since done is I've actually switched it to be 1 day per page. So I will skip days if I don't have anything I want to write about. But now we can kind of go to this one, for example. I'm writing about multiple topics in 1 page. So here I talked about the weather in the first paragraph and how spring is finally coming in Canada. Oh my gosh, we had 2 feet of snow at the beginning of March, not in one snowfall, like cumulatively on the ground. It was wild, but it's since melted, which has been very nice. So talking about spring, which I'm very excited about, and then the next 2 paragraphs are Stardew Valley. So multiple topics on a page. I've been liking that a lot better because it feels a lot more achievable to be able to actually use most of the page, which is just something I like personally, but also I think, you know, it's good to use the page, use the insert, all that good stuff. In terms of the insert, it looks like this right now. I kind of decorate the cover and the front as I finish generally, so I haven't really done that yet. There's a timeline here, which I'm going to use at the end of the insert to write down the topics that I want to reference or that I think are kind of the highlights of the book. And then this is how it looks. So this is similar to how I've been journaling in this insert since last year, but I use a date stamp for the date in this kind of section at the top. I am writing about my day here. And then what I have been doing as well, which I've really liked, is this year I got the Moomin daily calendar, which is a tearaway calendar. And for days where I have a topic that kind of aligns with an illustration from the calendar, I'll actually cut it out and paste it in. And I really, really like the way it looks. I like how it kind of adds context to the entry and acts as a bit of a visual cue to remind me what it's about. For example, 1st of March, lots of snow. It's still winter, even though it's technically spring. That was kind of the summary of March 1st for me. So yeah, that's kind of how this is looking. I'll show you maybe a couple pages. Yeah, like for example, this page, for 1 topic, I would never have been able to fill up an entire page, but now because I'm talking about 3 or 4 topics in a day, it's a lot easier, and yeah, it's been going really well. I've also been a little more liberal with pasting things in. Because this is a traveler's notebook insert, I don't have to be as careful as I am with my 5-year about putting things in here and chunking up the book, because it is only, I think, about 32 days worth of, you know, pages, and it's not a super kind of hardcover book, so it can accommodate that. So I've been pasting in things like screen caps from my Stardew Valley farm. I'm very sorry, I feel like this is like part planner, part Stardew Valley video, but I pasted in, for example, one of my completed sheds in the game. This is my tea shed, so I have tea plants in here, and then I have kegs to make green tea out of them, which I really liked the layout, so I wanted to document it and write about it. But yeah, that's kind of how this insert is looking. Not every page is like exciting. All these pages are blank. I'll probably add a photo at some point, who knows. But yeah, I have been keeping up with this as well for March, kind of. It's kind of harder because it's a daily book, so it does take a little more time, but I have been really liking this book as well as my 5-year for writing about my day, and I feel like this is very different than my 5-year because it captures a very different level of detail, and it's year bound versus the 5-year is over multiple years. And yeah, that is pretty much everything I wanted to show you today. That is a update on my analog system, how it went for the past 3 months, and what has changed, what has stayed the same, and what I am still using for the next 3 months for the next quarter. So I'm gonna keep this short because I think I've been talking far too long, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my journals and my analog system and all of the stuff I got going on, and let me know below what you're still using. I would love to hear. And besides that, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Bye everyone.